RM Sotheby's is the world's largest collector car auction house by total sales. They are the preeminent market maker of high-quality collector cars and collections, regardless of size or complexity. By working in partnership with the Sotheby's team and its network of 80 offices in 40 countries, RM Sotheby's has established the largest client network of any collector car auction house in the world. Join the RM Sotheby's family by connecting with one of their car specialists at rmsotheby's.com or contact me directly at GStanley at rmsotheby's.com. LLC TLC is here to save you money on all of your vehicle purchases. LLC TLC will permanently register your classic cars in Montana to avoid any annual renewal fees. As your registered agent, they will handle everything for you so you never have to step foot in Montana. And as a listener of this podcast, LLC TLC is offering 30% off your entire package. Simply go to llctlc.com/classic or mention this podcast when you contact LLC TLC directly. All right. Hey, it's Greg Stanley with the Collector Car Podcast. This is going to be a fun one because I just visited this museum and I was totally blown away. So I wanted to have Cameron on. Cameron Richards from the Nethercutt Collection. Cameron, how you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for being on this podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I know we met in Las Vegas last year, and Stuart, he came right over to me. He's like, I need to introduce you to a friend of mine, and yeah, glad we could finally get something going.
Yeah, you know, I have to bust your chops right now because you manage a high-end, really nice automobile museum, and yet you have Audrain's baseball cap on. Isn't that a competitor of yours?
We're all more like friends in the community. Yeah, these hats are comfy. I'm long overdue for a haircut, so finally get snipped tomorrow.
It all came together for this podcast. Okay, all right, I got it. Well, cool. I appreciate it. So I tried to connect with you when my wife and I went out to videotape the Pontiac GTO for Jay Leno's show. You've been on Jay's, 9 times now?
Yeah, we've done 9 episodes with Jay.
Yeah, so couldn't catch up with you then because you were getting a car ready for La Jolla Concours, correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, I couldn't be your tour guide that day, but I pretty much live at the museum for the most part.
So what was the car that you took to La Jolla and what happened to it?
So we brought a 1930 Ruxton sedan. It's one of only 96 built and 17 still surviving. We did about a 50-mile tour in it. The only thing that it got was a rock chip on one of the wheels. But a few weeks prior to that, when we were road testing her, she actually snapped her front axle, and it's a front-wheel drive car. So it was a little bit of chaos to get her ready for the show. But luckily, I got a good team. We got it done in time, and we got 3 trophies at the show. We're the oldest car to ever do the tour. It was a lot of fun.
So what happens when the front axle of a Ruxton breaks, first off, and then how do you fix such a, historic piece of a car?
Yeah, so it's a little tricky. Varies by the car, but when you have only 17 still left, if we don't have any spare parts in our parts division, gotta go to the internet, call our friends in the small little wonderful community that we're a part of. My great-grandfather, JB, who started everything, I'm pretty sure he was Hershey, Pennsylvania's best customer for decades. So luckily we did have spare Ruxton parts to get her fixed in time.
Yeah, you don't hear that often, spare Ruxton parts, Yeah, okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, if you would give my listeners who have never been to Collection kind of an overview. Obviously, is it your grandfather or your great-grandfather?
Great-grandfather started it all. Basically, how it began is he bought 2 cars back in 1956, and basically it turned into, he bought one Duesenberg that was already a collector car, and then he bought a 1930 DuPont Model G town car that was his first Pebble Beach win and his first restoration. And that was completed in 1958, and the obsession and the passion and the hobby just never stopped until he passed away in 2004. And that turned into basically creating a entire car museum and musical instrument museum. The whole basically theme of the Nethercutt is functional fine art. All of our cars run and drive, and all of our instruments play themselves, actually. because my great grandparents loved music. However, they weren't musicians. So all of our pianos, all of our orchestrions, they all play themselves, even our theater pipe organ. We have about 250 cars on display between the two buildings in Silmar, and a lot of American and European pre-war mainly. We got some muscle cars and race cars and stuff, but a lot of luxury cars of the golden age of the automobile, as we like to call it.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I wanted to hear, because I remember hearing that either you told me or it was during the tour, functional fine art. I thought that was a brilliant way to sum up the collection. And it's super cool because we just happened, thank you for getting us on the list for a tour. We walk up and they said, "Oh, are you here for the tour?" And our name was on the list, and it started in 2 minutes. Like, it was perfect timing. And you have all the musical instruments throughout the display of cars. So while you're looking at these incredible cars in an incredible setting like the salon, is that what they call it, the salon?
The Grand Salon, yeah.
The Grand Salon. It's just unbelievable what you can see, because you're looking at a beautiful, maybe it's a brass era car, nickel era, whatever, but then you see the instruments around it that are absolute pieces of work to behold in themselves, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to explain it sometimes. To, like, even friends that I've known for years that just haven't been able to get out to LA to see it, and then once they actually come and see it for the first time, they're blown away, because it's hard to explain. Pictures don't quite do it justice. We are working on doing our own YouTube channel, which will help a lot in the near future. But yeah, most people will come for the cars, and then they'll leave being astounded by the musical instruments, and vice versa. It's really fun to have like a car club in, and they're taking more pictures and videos and asking more questions about a 120-year-old instrument.
Right. And just to be clear for listeners, I can't even describe it. I mean, one of these, what do they call them? What do you call them when it's like 5 violins in a wooden case and it plays itself? What is that called?
Yes, we have Orchestrions, which is basically your very first jukebox, which everything's mechanical. There are real instruments inside of them, gigantic wooden jukeboxes. Some of them weigh as much as a F-350 or more, and they're mechanically driven on paper scrolls, and that's what plays the musical notes on the scrolls. And our biggest one is a Hupfeld. It was originally in a hotel in the Netherlands, and it is supposed to mimic the sound of 20 orchestra players. And it's really loud. I'm sure they played it for you on the tour.
Yeah, they played Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, cool! It. Yeah, that's a fan favorite, definitely. And yeah, basically your very first jukebox.
Well, it's crazy because I think it said it had 5,000 pipe organs for that particular one, along with the instruments.
Yeah. So our Wurlitzer organ, it's the third largest in the world. It has 5,132 pipes, and it surrounds every single corner of the building. In fact, the music room, which is our 4th floor, that actually, the entire building was built around that organ. So the room itself is technically an instrument.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you go for the cars, but you stay for the instruments. It's like, that's what it is. I mean, it was really cool because they had us, they had us sit down and they played 3 different orchestrals, I guess you'd say, or, ended with the organ. And it was amazing, just incredible space up there. And they did talk about the dining room table set up, and there's a kitchen back there, I guess. And back in the day, he would have parties up there and just play the music. Now, did you ever go to any of those parties, or were you too young to go to those parties?
I believe I was a baby when those were still going on. Everything kind of slowed down as far as the entertainment side when JB and Dorothy passed.
Yeah.
But I do have one memory of the picnics we used to do way back in the day, and Christmas parties. We'll still do Christmas parties every year, but there used to be, God, I think they would do at least one huge party up there at least once a month.
Makes me wish I was around about 40 years ago when they were in the heyday of it, right?
Yeah, me too. My biggest fantasy is time travel. And, wish I could just go back and see what it was like in the heyday.
So you've spoken a little bit about the collection as a whole. Obviously, a lot of pre-war cars, brass era cars, a lot of brands you don't see anymore. I mean, your line of Pierce arrows is just really amazing. See the evolution of a headlight, basically integrated headlight.
Yeah.
You have displays full of incredible hood ornaments, mascots, lights. I mean, headlights and all sorts of incredible stuff. I love the Ferrari 365 you have in the lobby, the Spider, I think one of 14 or so that you recently had on Jay's show, right?
Yeah, we did that. I think a little over a year ago. That was a fun one because usually we'll bring really old stuff, and we brought the 20 grand Duesenberg, which we really don't like putting her on the street very often, so we actually drove that one around the airstrip in Burbank. But the Ferrari one was fun because if you watch that episode, we do a flyby and we're doing about 90 miles an hour on that first clip.
That bridge?
Yeah, on the bridge. Yeah. That car likes to sit at 90. That's where it's happy. It's a tall man's Ferrari is what the Ferrari community regards it as.
Okay. Yeah, that was really cool. And the same time when he took my Pontiac GTO over that bridge, he was laying into it. And I mean, I looked over that. I'm like, I think we're doing like 80, 85, which is great because I wanted him to really lay into it. And they, as soon as he let up, you hear the walkie-talkie go off because he had let off a little too soon. So we had to do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's fine. Let's do it again.
Yeah, Jay is so awesome. And, he's friends with all the cops in the area too. So I guess he could just always do that on that bridge or because they used to do the burnout segment years ago and I missed that. But
yeah. So tell us a little bit about what Nethercutt is up to. So you've obviously given it a lot of exposure by being on Jay's show, sharing the cars. You obviously share them at Pebble Beach, La Jolla, other Concours events, Las Vegas. How else are they getting the word out or sharing, ways to see this incredible collection?
Sure. So my big baby was our new website. That took a few years because our previous website, I think, was last updated in like 2007. So definitely wanted to get that all revamped because it's sort of my turn to take care of everything and get the word out. I do all the shows now, from rolling the car off the truck at 5 a.m. to being out in the sun all day and putting it back on. I absolutely love shows. Tours are even more fun because I'm a gearhead. I love to drive the stuff. But PR is, I guess, mainly my goal is to get us just well known because the pandemic really, we were closed for almost 2 years, especially being located in California, had all these rules to go by. So I'm just trying to, at the end of the day, my goal, because I'll be doing this until I die, is leave it better than how I got it. But YouTube is going to be our biggest thing because Jay is one of my heroes. And just the way he can sit on camera and just show people a car that he finds interesting, because I want to do the exact same thing where, there's a huge number of cars in our museum where I think all the facts and the engineering behind it is so fascinating. So if someone is never going to be ever coming out to Los Angeles, at least I could show them virtually. And that also helps us fund future projects to go out and do new things. Like I've always wanted to go to Goodwood. There's tons of shows in the United States that we haven't done before. Just trying to get us more pushed into the 21st century, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes that's a hard push depending on who's with you. So,
right.
We didn't talk about it. What is your position at the museum?
So I'm the vice president and curator now. So we had Kyle Irwin was our master technician and curator. He retired. So now I'm basically learning how to become a mechanic in the restoration shop. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm doing tours or talking to fun people in the car like yourself.
So, all right. Well, now you're very familiar. You're probably one of the most familiar with this collection of cars. Give me your top 3 in the collection.
Ooh.
Putting you on the spot.
All right. Well, I'll start with my personal favorite to show because, we do a 2-hour tour that you were on. I could talk 2 hours probably about this one particular car. It's a 1931 Bugatti Type 51 Dubo Coupe. So the car has just the most unbelievable history. It started life as a Grand Prix Type 51 race car. It was owned by Louis Chiron and also raced by Rene Dreyfus and crashed by Rene Dreyfus. After about 5 years of its racing career, it was retired. where a man named Andre Bith bought it and had a one-off coupe body built on top of the race chassis by a man named Louis Dubeau. So the car is known as the Dubeau Coupe. It's the only one of its kind. And the car was owned by Andre Bith for, let's see, about 13 or 14 years until he sold it. The car was hidden away and survived World War II. Don't know much history during the war where it was at, but it mainly resided in France. And then when it was sold in 58, the coupe body was actually removed from the chassis. And then those were separated all the way up until 2000 because JB owned the real chassis with the replica race body that was put on it. Until 2000 at Pebble Beach, there's a Bugatti coupe up for sale owned by a man named Bob Sutherland. So JB purchased that and remarried the original chassis to the coupe body. So that one's my favorite because it's still geared like a race car. It scares the hell out of me. But it's one of the
How hard is that to get into? Because you're what, 6 feet tall or so?
Yeah, I'm barely 6 feet tall. I mean, I think I'm already starting to shrink, but I drive it barefoot. The pedal box is minuscule, and my head touches the roof. I mean, we did the episode of Jay, and it's funny because our shoulders are right on top of each other, but we're screaming at each other because the supercharged
so loud,
screaming along, and it's easy to maneuver. Besides having straight cut gears, I mean, it was definitely a challenge to learn how to drive a race car that old, but it is my favorite to. If I have an open road, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Okay. That's the favorite.
Yeah, that's my favorite for a number of reasons. It's hard to pick like a single favorite, but
sure.
Obviously, one of the main reasons what people come to see the Grand Salon is the 20 grand, the 1933 Duesenberg SJ Arlington Torpedo Sedan, otherwise known as the 20 grand because of its original asking price, built for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. So expensive that no one bought it, so they painted it black and sold it the following year. She's been all over the world, won pretty much every concourse it's ever been to. It's actually won shows where it wasn't even there to compete.
This is display only. Oh, wait, no, I won the whole show.
Yeah, it's happened a couple times. It's pretty funny. That's definitely a very, very popular car. We have every Rolls-Royce Phantom, well, the old generation. We don't have the new stuff, but we have a Phantom 4 that was owned by a sheikh, the leader of Kuwait. That car is really interesting to me because they only built 18 of them in the span of, I believe, 6 years. And it's all original, still running, driving. I think it has 9,000 miles originally on it. And we have a number of Rolls Royces, like our Phantom 2 that you probably saw at the Grand Salon. It's owned by famous actor Constance Bennett. And it was her favorite car. She leased it to all the old Hollywood studios. It had starring roles in movies until her husband lost it in a poker game.
Right.
That's one of my favorite stories. I mean, the list goes on and on. I know the Maybach Zeppelin's a real popular car as well because of its ties to World War II, and it was hunted by the Nazis. It's always an interesting fact to share with people, and the fact that the Nazis couldn't find it makes it a lot better too.
So let's go the opposite direction. What's your least favorite car in the collection?
Least favorite? Oh, that's a good one. Well, we have an EV1. So I think it's an important artifact of automotive history, at least because EVs are taking over. But everyone, including myself, hates to move it because GM disabled them all if you got to keep one. And we're contractually obligated to never get rid of it or try and get it operating again. And part of that is all the wheels are seized up. So, and you can't fit Gojacks under it. So that car is the biggest pain to move.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah. I'd say that one's the most tiresome. But other than that, I mean, I love all of them for different reasons. Least favorite, it's hard to pick one, I guess.
So what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about the museum? Is it nethercuttmuseum.com?
Nethercuttcollection.org.
Collection.org. Okay.
I mean, if you just Google the word Nethercutt, NETHERCUTT, our new website will pop right up. It's got links to our social media. If you're a history nerd like I am, our Instagram and Facebook have hours of reading material on the cars that we have. I just kind of post pictures or videos of what I have of them, and then a little write up about the history of the cars themselves, the history specifically of that car if it has any. It's a lot of good stuff if you're a history nerd.
So this is a little tangent, but I'm curious. So you are not the generation of your great grandfather, so your tastes are probably not totally aligned. Is there some strategically? Are there cars you might be looking at to add to the collection that your grandfather, your father would have never thought to put in the museum? Let's say more of a next gen desirability kind of stuff, like JDM cars. Are you looking at?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
supercars, anything
Great
like that?
Question. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in the era of Fast and Furious movies and video games. So I love Ford GTs. I love Toyota Supras, Nissan Skylines. I'd love to have a few JDM cars, just more generation stuff. I mean, I've always thought lowriders are really cool, and we're based in Los Angeles. That's Lowrider Central. So I'd love to get something like that where we could go to lowrider shows even. A Ferrari F40 is probably my dream car to have in the future. Those will not go down in value, so we'll see how that
no, they won't.
in the future. Yeah, a lot of cars from the 90s that I thought are cool. And then, my dad's first car was a G-body Buick, so I'd love to get a Grand National. It all started with muscle cars for me. A Mustang fanatic since I could walk, so...
What Mustang do you like? What generation?
Well, the first.
Okay. Yep.
Like a 66 convertible, I just think is such a timeless, beautiful car. Gone in 60 Seconds, I fell in love with Eleanor when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I have an '05 GT that is just a nothing car, but they're so great. Like they're just bare bones muscle car.
Yeah, because one of the hardest jobs you have is getting eyeballs, right? And especially the next generation of eyeballs, and that's a tough nut to crack. So it seems like you're thinking the right way, getting the website up and running, doing YouTube videos. You're meeting your enthusiasts where they are, which is a great step to make.
Yeah, I'm trying my hardest. I mean, I'm the luckiest person I've ever met. I was born into my dream job, and I'm just trying to do the best I can in it.
That's awesome. Well, my last question, and I thought this would be fun. You've been on Jay Leno's show 9 times now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Don't call me sir. Oh, my gosh. So
that out, I guess.
Yeah. So I know I had some fun behind the scenes stories that I could share, and I did on a previous podcast with my one visit. You being there 9 times, is there any sort of like funny little story behind the scenes, how either, I don't know, Jay was like really great and transparent with us for filming. Like he didn't want people to be nervous. And I don't know, it was just neat. He went out of his way to show us his new Spectre, the Rolls Royce. He's uncovering it, because he wanted us to see it, and he took time to show it to us. And do you have any kind of fun little behind the scenes stories that didn't make it on air?
Oh yeah, I mean, I usually, because we bring such old stuff, I'll get there early in the morning, even if we film in the afternoon, just to make sure the car's all right. And his crew, you've met them; they're just wonderful people. So I have no problem hanging out there all day, staring at what Jay's got and stuff. Not sure if I'm allowed to cuss on this show because I do have.
You can, sure.
Okay, cool. I mean, one of my favorite things was when we took the 20 grand. He mentioned the stereos that would come in Duesenbergs, and I was unaware that they had that. So he was like, "Oh no, come here." We were in the middle of filming with the 20 grand, and cameras are rolling, and he's like, "Yeah, come over here." And we went into his Duesenberg room, and he's like, "Yeah, go sit in the back seat." And he turns the Duesenberg radio on. It's just he's so personable like that, and so knowledgeable. Just my utter car hero. But when we filmed the Ferrari episode, if I'm allowed to cuss. We were we were driving down the street, and there was this $11 Honda Accord with missing wheels and just flying up next to us and locking up the brakes right next to us, and it almost cut us off twice. So Jay just pulls over, and I'm like, "You good?" And he just looks over. He goes, "We're gonna let the bias for a few minutes, then we'll keep going. I'm like, all right, sounds good to me, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny. We had something not quite like that, but a little similar, where a guy comes flying up next to us, and all he's asking is how much. He just wanted to buy the car, and Jay's like, they don't even care what the car is. They just see me driving, they want to buy it,
Yeah.
Whatever it is, He's like, well, what is it? He's like, I don't know, I want to buy it. It's just interesting events happen when you're in the car.
Every time we've gone out to film anything, I mean, everyone's always honking, and obviously the cars grab attention anyways. But when they see it's Jay driving, and he always honks and waves. And,
yeah.
I mean, it's never been in the 9 episodes we shot. Nobody's like, "Screw you, Jay." It's all like, "Jay Leno, we love you."
That's awesome.
But how could you not? He's the man.
He is. Yep. Well, thanks so much, Cameron. I appreciate you being on the Collector Car Podcast and sharing your knowledge about these incredible cars at the Nethercutt Collection.
Well, thank you, Greg. It's an honor to be on. Thank you very much.